Hello and welcome. I'm Amritanshu Rai and you're watching Law of the Land on Raj Sabha TV. Today we bring to you the Motor Vehicles Amendment Bill 2016, which upgrades the existing law. To discuss the issue, I have with me Mr. Rupinder Kumar, Additional CP, Delhi Traffic Police, and joining him is Saji, Cherian, Director, Save Life Foundation. Now for the headlines. The bill increases penalties for various types of violations. The bill makes it mandatory for taxi aggregators to take licenses. And Good Samaritans will not be harassed for helping accident victims. The Motor Vehicles Amendment Bill 2016 increases penalties for drunken driving to 10,000 rupees. The bill also imposes up to 100 crore rupees as fine and also imprisonment on manufacturers violating vehicle manufacturing standards. It also makes licensing mandatory for taxi aggregators like Ola and Uber.
The Motor Vehicles Amendment Bill 2016 defines an aggregator as a digital intermediary or marketplace. The aggregator's services may be used by a passenger to connect with a driver for transportation purposes. The bill requires these aggregators to obtain licenses. The aggregators will be also required to comply with the Information Technology Act 2000.
We unfortunately always work with and get disciplined when enforcement is more effective. Now the fines value is going to be substantial. That would give the person who is paying the ticket more careful. Secondly, the enforcement of these fines must need to be regulated better. You see, there is a problem with this also. Unless we regulate this properly, there is a possibility that the poor policeman or the other enforcing person may be more attracted to a bigger bribe and let off the person. So there is plus and minus. When you increase fines with the intent which has been done in the act, it is exceedingly right. But its enforcement should, as far as possible, very quickly be shifted to intelligent transport systems.
The amendment bill increases penalties for driving without license to 5,000 rupees. Fine for driving without insurance has been increased to 2,000 rupees. Overspeeding penalty for light motor vehicles has been increased to 1,000 rupees. Fine for speeding and racing offences has been increased to 5,000 rupees. Now the fine for drinking and driving will be 10,000 rupees. Fine for not wearing seat belt has been increased to 1,000 rupees. Whereas fine for not wearing helmets would lead to disqualification of license for 3 months and a fine of 1,000 rupees.
There are many new provisions which have been added in this bill and which could have been there earlier, which is there in many other countries. So I hope this will definitely improve road safety conditions in India. I find that there is a provision for recall of vehicle. There is a provision for penalty for offences. There are all other provisions except even for bringing the patients also, traffic accident people also, if there is a provision. But there is no provision about the education. Education is a very important part of road safety.
The bill recognizes violations by juveniles. New provisions concerning offences committed by juveniles will hold the parents or guardians of the juvenile guilty, with a fine of up to 25,000 rupees along with 3 years imprisonment. The juveniles will be tried under the Juvenile Justice Act in such matters. The Motor Vehicle Amendment Bill was introduced in Lok Sabha on 9th August 2016 by the Minister of Road Transport and Highways, Nitin Gadkari. Although the bill simplifies the procedure for the grant of driving license to the drivers, but the provisions removing minimum qualifications of the drivers is being questioned by the experts. They are of the opinion that there should be some minimum qualifications to avoid accidents due to ignorance of the law. With cameraman Santosh Kumar, Dipali Pandit for Rajya Sabha Television.
The new standards of fine are expected to have a deterrent effect. Will it work? Now, there was a penalty system earlier too. And in fact, one of the experts pointed out that it's all got to do with the implementation part. And he also said it is the poor policeman who has to take a call to what extent the penalty has to be imposed or what is the other way that the person can get away. So, in a situation like that, what are the practical challenges that your institution is presently faced with?
See, at the foremost, let me see, we are all for enhanced fines. And it has been seen worldwide, heavy fines have acted as a deterrent and it has led to road discipline. And by and large, people have started behaving on the roads once the fines are higher. For example, and I'll give you an instance, you recall during the Commonwealth Games, we had created a CWG lane for the buses for the athletes to move. Now, if you recall, the fine for that violation of that lane was 5,000 rupees. And there was almost 100% compliance.
Actually,
even at the middle of the night, we saw people dare not enter that lane when it was, totally vacant. So there is implementation. There is voluntary kind of thing also. It doesn't come down to actually implementing it by prosecution and all. People will start. I'm sure they'll start doing it on their own also.
It'll have the desired effect.
Definitely.
That's what you feel.
Yeah.
But I'll bring it around. See, one of the issues that I want you to address is, see, Delhi is a population of effective, important people, all gathered in one cosmopolitan, and everyone knows someone or the other. And there's a phone call that goes eventually to someone higher up for getting free of these penalties, and this happens too often. Many are allowed to go without even paying penalties and fines. Now, how does the institution deal with this problem?
See, as far as we are concerned, we have clear instructions to our staff. They are not to listen to anybody as far as this thing, comes to notice. On our own, we have never ever called a cop and told him to let somebody off. So basically, I'm not saying that it will not happen or it has not happened, but we have consciously made efforts that the staff should be, sensitized on this, that they are performing their duty and they should not get carried away by big names and things like that. And very recently, we have also started, giving body-worn cameras to our staff, so which they obviously cannot switch off while they are doing the challaning and all. So what they do, how they do, we monitor.
Okay, so that's the new technology that, and almost everyone on the cutting edge, the officers on the ground, all of them wear cameras
Well,
now?
not all of them at this moment, but the process is on. Eventually, we'll cover everybody.
And how long will that take?
Shortly.
Shortly. Saji, bringing in the completely people's point of view.
Yeah.
Now, hiking up the entire penalty to a situation where a person may not have that kind of money in the wallet. So how does that work out?
Sure. First of all, I think the bill is a big step forward.
Yeah.
And we need to congratulate the government for taking the stand and introducing the bill. We are number one in road accident deaths and injuries in the world. We have been for many years now, and there had to be a strong legislation which needed to be brought in, and so the amendment bill is a huge step forward with regard to road safety. to answer your question, 2 points. One, across the world, enhancement of fines is seen as a deterrent. Fines are not supposed to be easy to be on the pocket, right? The aspect of fine or civic penalties that we see is supposed to prohibit the person to take an action which will eventually lead cause death of somebody else or for himself. So it has to be a deterrent effect. If you look at the fines which is existing right now, for example, general offences is 100 rupees, right? And this was done.
We are aware of that. It's nothing. It's 1/10
exactly.
of the amount
so this was
that
done,
is existing.
This was since 1988. So we are looking at 28 years hence. Even if you go by a simple formula of inflation, right, an average inflation, that 100 rupees is supposed to be almost 800 rupees right now. And the fine which has been enhanced is from 100 to 500 rupees for general offences. So we are looking at something which is actually, it's not enhanced till 800 rupees, it is still 500 rupees. So it's important to understand that fines are supposed to have a deterrent effect. So right now the fines which are existing does not have a deterrent
effect. Correct.
And the idea is that the fine has to be a deterrent effect with the enhancement. Second, as you correctly said, that enforcement has to go hand in hand. And to your earlier question about how do we, the whole aspect of corruption and stuff like that. See, corruption is there in different
every sphere
of life, even in private sector as well. We cannot join enhancement of fines with corruption and say because there will be corruption, so we should not have enhancement of fines. The way to deal with corruption is being put in this bill in section 136A, an amendment that has been brought in, is electronic enforcement. And Rupinder sir will agree with me, you cannot put a police officer at every red light.
Right.
It's not possible. So the whole concept of smart city.
Going into the surveillance mode.
Exactly. And there have been cities which have done it. Bangalore has done it, Trivandrum has done it, where they have, and Bombay is also I think going to do it now, is to fit CCTVs and
Where are we on
cameras.
that front, sir? That's where the human intervention is reduced largely to surveillance of the thing, so that you don't let anyone go scot-free.
See,
automated systems.
See, we are moving towards the intelligent traffic system. Now that's one system what he's talking about, where there will be no human interface, and most of the prosecution can be detected by cameras, different locations and all. So I'm not really sure about the time frame by which it will be implemented, but it is in the pipeline.
Is there a paucity of funds, or is there some sort of a problem on that front?
No, there's no paucity of funds.
Execution is a problem of surveillance. What is it? Where is the problem?
No, it still has to come on the ground.
Because 4 years back, you people tried the camera detection system. It did not work, it went off the radar. Now, after that, we really did not see any new technology coming up as far as traffic managements are concerned, where the human interface can be reduced.
It will come only when the ITS is there on the ground.
Okay. Coming up, the bill empowers the government to recall motor vehicles which are found to have manufacturing defects with replacement of vehicle. Welcome back. The Motor Vehicles Bill 2016 makes a provision empowering the central government to make rules for protection of good Samaritans. A good Samaritan will not be liable for any legal action in accidents causing death or injury caused due to involvement of motor vehicles.
The proposed amendments in the bill seek to deal with issues relating to strengthening public transport, automation, and computerization along with facilitation of citizens. The bill also addresses the safety and efficiency issues in the transport sector to comply with the Brasilia Declaration by reducing road accident fatalities by 50% by the year 2020. The bill allows the central government to order for recall of motor vehicles if a defect in the vehicle causes damage to the environment, the driver or other road users. According to the bill, the manufacturer will have to reimburse the buyers for the full cost of the vehicle or replace the defective vehicle if it is caused due to manufacturing defects.
In the past, what happened when you take a victim to hospital? You used to be questioned by police and hospital. How do you know this person? What happened? Everything, and you have to go to court to answer the questions as well. So now in new law, they have stopped all these things. You just admit the patient, and you don't have to answer anything. You are not responsible for anything. You just admit and leave. So this will bring road safety, people will be more willing to help the victims.
The Motor Vehicle Bill 2016 allows a driver license holder to apply for renewal of license 6 months before or after the expiry of license. As of now, the time frame is just 1 month. The bill proposes to increase the period of renewal of transport license from the existing duration of 3 years to 5 years. The bill also simplifies the procedure of obtaining learner's license by enabling an applicant to apply online. The bill provides for a separate provision in the bill to enable the licensing authority to grant license to the specially abled persons.
The bill is a very positive step, and it will help to improve the road transport management and systems in the country. I feel there are two areas which I am not very comfortable with in the bill. One is they have done away with the basic qualification of the drivers, which I think is not right. The driver should be able to read the road signs, he should be able to read the directions, he should be able to comprehend things which an uneducated man will not be able to do. So that's something which we need to correct. We must have some minimum qualification and a proper check of all drivers before they were issued the driving license. Another thing which I feel which we should add in the bill or in the rules thereof is that every driver must be also trained in extended first aid trauma care.
The bill requires the central government to constitute a motor vehicle accident fund. The fund will provide compulsory insurance covers to all road users. The fund will be created by raising money as cess or tax and grant made by the centre. The bill empowers the central government to develop a national transportation policy in consultation with the states. The policy would establish a planning framework for road transportation. It will develop a framework for grant of schemes and permits.
There was a 5% rise in total number of road accidents in the year 2015 in comparison to the previous year. Considering the increase in road accidents year by year, the government has come up with the Motor Vehicles Amendment Bill 2016 to improve road safety and transport system in the country. With cameraman Santosh Kumar, Dipali Pandit for Rajya Sabha Television.
Why has the government opted not to have a criteria for licensing, that is driving licenses? Now, Saji, that's what I want you to address.
Yeah.
India, the way it is it really possible to have a criteria for driving licenses where it is a skill that requires to be promoted and more people need to be driving around?
Sure.
In a situation like that, do you think that it was right on part of the government to go in for no minimum criteria for driving license?
Sure. Let me first mention the positive thing that has been brought in the bill with regard to licensing. What is being introduced right now is a national register, a unified driving licensing system which has been introduced in this bill, which is basically that every person will have only one license. Right now what's happening is multiple licenses
States
are being
and
issued
yeah.
in states. So that is being subsumed into a national register, which is a great thing. I think that's the first process which is being done. The step forward should have been that there should be mandatory driver training for all to ensure that every person understands what is safe driving. So as of now, right now, people are not trained how to drive safely. Everybody is trained how to operate a vehicle, so they know how to change a gear and stuff, but they don't understand the concept of safe driving. What the bill should mention is about mandatory driver training.
But that's a problem. In fact, every legislation, we have that issue here,
Yeah.
because everywhere there is a need for awareness generation. Every law that needs to be implemented, and if there are 3,000 laws that are there in this country, so if you inbuild a awareness program, do you know the kind of budget the government will have to?
We're not talking.
There's a problem on that front.
Not mentioning just about awareness program. Awareness actually comes after
Training
the
and
system.
yeah,
exactly. So there has to be mandatory training, right? The test of competence, for example, when you go to get a license.
Correct.
It
Test of
has
skill.
To, exactly. It has to be automated.
Correct,
It
correct.
cannot be, and the process which is being followed right now is that the RTOs are issuing licenses
Randomly.
beyond their capacity, right? And if they follow the rules that has been laid down, typically a person, RTO officer would be able to probably give out 1 or 2 licenses every day, because that's a process that has to be followed. But right now, thousands of licenses are being issued from an RTO every day, because the process is not automated. And so it is important that first the person who has come to apply needs to show that he has gone through some kind of training, certified by an accredited school from the government.
That's a whole infrastructural setup that is
Exactly,
required.
exactly,
Some of it we see in Delhi, because the Delhi is a pretty advanced urban setup.
It has to percolate down to across the country, but it has to be done. But that system has to be built.
In fact, in Delhi, there's a lot of private sector that is also got involved into this.
Yeah, there is a PPP model which is,
Correct.
involved, where industries are being encouraged to please come in and set up schools, automated schools with systems in place, so that people can go and get the training done. So,
But it did not address the basic criteria for licensing. That is the point you've just kind of.
No, I think
Quickly.
educational qualification is definitely required. In fact, in this bill, one more aspect that needs to be addressed is that for heavy motor vehicle drivers, for example, there has to be an experience of have driven a light motor vehicle for at least a year. That has been done away with, which we believe should not be done away with. A person who is applying for a license
But
to
then
drive
the
a
government
truck,
must have really thought about it. It's a big decision.
And the possible reason is that there is a huge crunch of drivers.
Sir, I'll bring you in, sir, very quickly. How much of experience does the institution share with the licensing activity that is going on, that the RTO that we have? So how much of a experience bandwidth that you people generate, or database that you people generate, is shared with that department or organization, or do you people not communicate at all?
No, as far as the issuing of driving licenses is concerned, I mean, it's entirely their domain.
So there you don't interfere. But is there some...
What I'm saying is, we do have our own traffic training parks and other things, where, small children are introduced to various aspects of, road safety and maybe driving when they grow up and all. But as such, we are not, involved in issuing or licensing.
So there is a gap that has been left wide open.
Yeah.
And on the criteria removal, quickly, sir, what do you feel? Is that the right way forward?
See, the government must have thought about it. Like he said, about let's mention about the heavy vehicles. Majority of the truck drivers in the country, you would not find them literate.
Okay.
So if you try to put conditions and all,
They will not make it.
You won't find drivers.
Yeah. Moving on, my colleague Dipali Pandit spoke to Mr. Vijay Chibber, former Secretary, Ministry of Road Transport and Highway, and tried to get his point of view.
Do you think the provisions in the bill will help improve transport system and road safety in the country?
This bill has been actually drafted after a lot of consultative process. I think last 2 years, including the period when I was in office, we had studied the legislation across several geographies globally, and we have tried to take ideas and best practices which are suitable for in the Indian context to the extent that is possible. Thereafter, there has been huge amount of dialogue with the various stakeholders, and there has been chipping and chopping of ideas. So I think what is now emerging is really a product which has run its course in terms of dialoguing with all the people that need to be discussed with.
The bill provides for protection of good Samaritans. Do you think this will encourage citizens to help the accident victims?
Yes, certainly, because it's a very common sight to see in our roads that there is an accident victim is visible, and yet none of us take any steps to do whatever is required to reduce the trauma and to rush the patient to the nearest medical spot. And that is because collectively in our sort of psyche, there is this fear that you would be held partly responsible, or you would be put through a process of questioning, which is quite unnecessary or quite unwarranted. So the Good Samaritan part of the act is a very important way, not only of ensuring legally that the persons helping, the bystanders helping are given the protection, but also to advertise this fact to the common citizen of India that they need not fear in case they see an accident. They must, as a good citizen, it's their duty, and they must respond to mitigate the trauma to the extent that is possible.
The bill increases penalties and fine. Do you think this step will make the citizens much more careful?
Yes, certainly. I mean, if you travel on Indian roads, we must be one of the most unruly set of drivers that you can come across globally. And today, Indians are a global citizen, so you see the same stock of Indians traveling abroad, and they drive so well, and they're so well behaved, and they're so well, conscious of the legal provisions, etc. So I would believe that enhancing penalties is a step in the right direction. Yes, there is this other alternative side, that can Indians afford these kind of penalties? Well, the question is, can we afford to lose so many lives? Today, 10% of road accidents are occurring in India. We probably have the worst record of road accidents and fatalities in the world. And I think it's about time that we do something about it.
And thank you, sir, for joining us on this discussion. It's time for us to end the show. You can email your suggestions and comments to law.rstv@gmail.com. You can also watch our shows on the RSTV page of YouTube. We'll be back with a new issue and a new episode. Keep watching Raj Sabha TV.